Hello, guys, gals, non-binary pals, latent criminals, and other. Welcome to the Sci Fi Lab. I'm your host, DJ Squared, and with me is my co-host,
Harper.
And with us is our special guest,
John.
And as the opening implied, we are going to be talking about Psychopaths, specifically the world building in Psychopaths, and we're probably going to veer off into, like, general science fiction and general anime, too, so, Also, spoiler alert for the entirety of Psychopaths, nothing is safe. If you have not watched it yet and you want to, without being spoiled, just turn off this episode now. That's the only warning you're getting.
It's on YouTube?
Yes.
Guys, you have, like, no excuse. I mean, come on now.
Well, at least the first episode, right?
It was on Netflix. I know for sure. I watched it there.
And I watched it on Hulu.
Okay.
So.
I watched the first episode on YouTube.
Okay.
So.
Guys, no excuse.
Yeah, it's also, like, it's old enough to have a really good dub, so...
Yeah. In fact, just take the episode, pause it, just watch the whole thing. Doesn't matter what you're doing, watch the whole thing, just keep the other,
just
and then listen to the episode. Of course, this is why you're watching it, only to listen to us.
Yes, obviously. I'm actually also going to be talking about Psychopaths 2, because some of the elements of that I really enjoyed, so unless you care.
No. I've seen the first one. The second one, I've heard interesting things, and frankly, I think I heard those things from a review that spoiled the whole thing anyway. So I just sort of know what happened.
I actually really enjoyed Psychopaths 2, so I'm one of those weirdos. I'll watch the second season of a thing, and actually enjoy it, except for if it's Black Butler.
Oh, I know of that show.
Yeah, most people do. Most people who know anime.
I was about to say, I'm just gonna sit here and not
say
anything. I have no idea what's going on.
Don't worry about it. Alright, so for those of you who don't know Psychopaths and are still here just because,
Me?
Hey, you
are here for that demographic.
Yeah,
you have them. You have their back.
You got
the witness.
Yep.
The lady.
There you go.
You are the witness.
Science fiction term of the day.
Yeah.
She is our point of view character through which everyone will experience the world. Yeah. Okay, so the world specifically in Psychopaths is where everyone in Japan has, just like a color that is representative of their mental state.
I would say that there is a centralized like machine thing that analyzes people and provides them this, right? Like it's not like they're not like born with a little like sticker on their forehead, which is their color. But yeah, like basically,
it'd be great if they would.
That would be. I mean, it's interesting in another way. Like another means of classification. But yeah, no, it's like a central system, cameras everywhere. Obviously, you're 1984 kind of like surveillance state. There's a camera on you all the time, and it's going. And apparently, it can see your psycho stuff and give you psycho colors.
Yeah, it can see your psychological profile and assign you like a color based on if you're mentally healthy or not.
Yeah.
And a number that will tell you like how likely you are to commit a crime, and that's called your crime coefficient. So if a person's crime coefficient goes above a certain number, I think it's like 100. If your crime coefficient goes above 100, then you're labeled a latent criminal. And
yeah, you get arrested or something.
You get
re-educated.
I think it's like rehab. Like it's officially called like rehab. But
rehab camps. That's what we're calling them now.
It's an isolation chamber where you sit there for the rest of your life. Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun.
You're gonna sit there for the rest of your life.
Because the thing
sounds nice. Okay.
The thing is that you learn this in the anime that people who go to rehab don't come out.
Yeah.
They don't ever come out. Is the thing.
Which is interesting.
Unless they're a police enforcer, which an enforcer is a person in this world who is a latent criminal, who is brought out and used to hunt down other latent criminals. Because to catch a criminal, you need to think like a criminal. And if you can think like a criminal, then you are a criminal.
Yeah. It's actually, I mean,
according to the civil system anyway.
It's an interesting concept that like it treats the cops like criminals. I mean, like, I mean, you know, weird, maybe certainly in current times in America that, like, you know.
I mean, accurate.
Yeah, no, it's just like, you know, I like it's an interesting dynamic that you have, like, even to like tiers of like that, the guys who like are on the, you know, like just on the street, like looking at people, like the actual investigators, they're like they're collared too, which I mean you can see the compelling nature of that potentially, but. Yeah,
the investigators are not latent criminals, and they're there basically to be chaperones for the enforcers who are the latent criminals.
Actually, we just watched the episode where one of the enforcers is like, "Hey, just don't worry about it. We have it. Just stand here and watch us. That's exactly. Your job."
Yeah, we did. Interesting thing about that specific enforcer is that he used to be an investigator. Or he used to.
Well, he used to not be an enforcer. So like he was not like he didn't have a crime coefficient. He used to be like I think like just clear, right? And then eventually he just did. He was too into crimes. He was solving them really well, and he could get into the head of the criminal, and the criminal got into his head.
He stared into the void. The void stared back. You know how it is.
I mean, honestly, I mean that kind of is his character totally, just because like he's like super like he's like the grizzled old detective. He's like that cliche perfectly.
He is. He really is. He's got an attic room where he paints still lifes in his spare time.
Oh my god, that's so true.
No, he does.
No, thanks. But I mean, like it's an interesting way to like contextualize that trope as look in this society they like you know it catches those people like the brooding detective guy like the I would be a criminal but like I had the badge first kind of people. Interesting in that like
3 different inspectors in the show become enforcers is the thing. Yeah. Because like he did, Kogami did, and
isn't his son?
Ginzo.
Yeah.
Or whatever his name is. The other inspector who is not our main character. Yeah. He becomes a latent criminal at the end of the first show.
Yeah, and like I think like in the second season, like the thing is like his son basically takes over the father's role. And,
exactly.
That's kind of
except for he is far more concerned about Akane's psychopaths than.
So, my question is, what do they class like? I know there's the crime coefficient, but what do they classify as crimes? Because if I think about American society, I feel like everyone has committed a crime at some point in their life.
Oh yeah, we've definitely all committed crimes.
Everybody is a criminal.
You know, like in that, and honestly, like that is usually the central question of these, like of the surveillance state things, where it's like, you know, like. Whenever you have we have a rigid structure that will always classify you as this and will put you in concentration or rehab based on like a rigid number, the question is, well, wait, hold on, but like sometimes like you should be able to get away with crime sometimes, or like you should be able to you should be able to like there needs to be flexibility here.
Like where does it go when it's like civil disobedience?
Yeah.
Or something else like that.
And ultimately, I don't even think it does classify because
really
it's the like and that's like I think that's ultimately the problem, right? It becomes like maybe at some point when they're collecting data, like you know, you can imagine in the inception what they were doing is they put cameras on crimes that happened, and then they said, here's what this kind of looked like, and they put that through a machine, and eventually that system became a feedback loop into itself, and they said, all right, we don't need that anymore. Now it just goes, your brain is like this, all right.
It's more like the intent to commit a crime, even if it's not necessarily the worst crime.
Yeah. If it hasn't even been carried out.
It's not even. It's. I wouldn't even say it's like crime though. Like because it's not because like right because in the first episode and like we were talking about this before, right, where I think like it establishes the problem with the system immediately, right? So like there's a woman who gets kidnapped by a dude, and I think he has like a knife or something. He's gonna like kill her, using her as a hostage.
And sexually assaulted her and was planning on murder.
Oh right, yeah. Forgot those important details.
Those are very important.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, so very emotionally shocking stuff, and then the like inspector or the enforcer shoots the guy with the Dominator.
He blows into very like big red spray, huge chunks everywhere.
Dominator's
very traumatizing.
Interesting weapon. Basically causes an explosion to happen just in the dude, and then they just explode. But basically, like, then it goes to, like, so the, like, then, like, they psychoanalyze the woman, and it says, oh, she has a crime coefficient of, like, above whatever the threshold. She needs to go to a rehab facility. It's not, like, so, like, it's not even like, oh, their brain has a certain wave in it that might make them do this kind of crime. It's, like, just kind of instability in general.
This person has been stressed out so much that they need to go into rehab.
And sure,
I would not survive.
Yeah.
Because of road rage driving in Atlanta.
Well, considering they also, I'm pretty sure a lot of that society also has mostly self-driving cars. So,
you know, and like
that's a thing too.
You know, that's like usually that's like very emblematic of these kinds of societies where it's like everything is taken care of, and then like the story usually happens is where it's okay, everything's taken care of. There's like robot servants everywhere, like if like obnoxiously like nice robot servants. Like the cars probably say like give you massages like while they're taking you like to the mall or whatever, and like everything's usually handled. But like then it just comes to the outlier. Now essentially that's what the show is about, right? The antagonist is this outlier person who like the system cannot detect even when he's doing crime, right? It's ultimately that's why it's not even about crime. Literally the camera can see stabbing dude. It's like nah, he's fine. He's fine.
This dude literally slits a girl's throat, but his crime coefficient is 0.
Yeah.
Like his crime coefficient during the scene where he is threatening this girl, and then like his crime coefficient is steadily going down during this scene. Like it starts at like 30.
It's like he's almost taunting, right? Like you know, like that. Like I know that I can fool the system, but like let me start kind of like middle here. Let me just take it down for you because like I know I'm an outlier and I can do this.
Yeah, he can will his crime coefficient lower.
Yeah,
is the thing. He can will his hue check to see whatever he wants it to. Is the thing.
But yeah, I mean, like this is, I mean, but yeah, essentially it is like your classic setup of the society is like kind of this, it's become a machine, right? It has become this well-oiled machine where people can just kind of do things. The system tells you where you need to go. I mean, like I know they have entrance exams and like they're very like unlike ours today where it's like you got like a good grade at tech, maybe you can go wherever. I think it's here you kind of apply to like one of several like somewhat few divisions and they just kind of send you there. Maybe I'm wrong.
Like it's like an aptitude test.
Yeah.
For different types of work, and depending on like where your grades lie, what rank you get is I'm pretty sure it's like multi-tiered. Like, you know, the one of the main character's friends does blue collar work and one does white collar work, and that's because that's where their aptitude tests like dropped them. Is the thing.
Actually, and you know, like and before we mentioned like the protagonist, right? Like her thing is that like she was good at everything, right? Like she got like I think perfect scores. I think in all aptitude things, she could have gone anywhere. And like this is actually why she's like a great witness, a great protagonist, and that she can I mean I think we said essentially she's privileged. She has all the opportunity in front of her, and her problem is I don't know where I fit in the society where everyone is told where they fit in, and then everyone's struggling against that. You know, she talks with like her friends who were kind of put in white collar, blue collar, and they're all complaining about like. And I don't really like what I'm doing. I don't like that I did this. I wish that I got high grades or something. She's like, I don't know what to do with my life. And her special thing is her psychopath never gets super black. No matter what happens, she's always in the middle. And then again another aspect of privilege. She just like this is why she's perfect for seeing this world. She never saw a problem with it because she was totally fine throughout. I like that dynamic.
It's super interesting.
It's effective at to get to wrap it into the world building. It's very effective at getting the world building because it's a very believable character in this world. I mean, effectively, you start from a place of privilege in that like you're kind of separate from it, but like you understand like you are within this dynamic.
This is a place of privilege, which is interesting for our viewer, for like us viewing it, because it's a place of privilege that every one of us understands. For the most part.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm speaking here as a white person. So, obviously, I've got a little bit of...
As white upper-class male, I fully understand the idea.
Yeah, but this is a privilege that most people, at least most people, I think, have it.
Yeah, and, like, to an extent, like, as long as you're not living in dystopian machine society, you probably understand this to a degree of, I kind of have a bit of freedom here, more so than, oh, I got an A in being blue-collar, I guess I have to... But I think it does illuminate for people, like myself, who don't really have never really had a problem of going anywhere, doing anything. In reality, this is kind of what it is. I mean, everything is kind of like all society is like a machine to an extent that kind of shuffles people in a certain direction. This show just took it to an extreme. Of course, that's what science fiction does, right? But yeah, I really like that dynamic and how it establishes the world and makes a character that we can understand, who is perfectly naive enough, understandably, with this world. Because usually you get the characters like, I'm totally naive to like the big bad guy who's over there. It's like, dude, he's been like oppressing you for like years. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, at the very least, she's naive enough because she's, a wet behind the ears, new first day on the job inspector.
Yeah.
But she's grown up in this world, so she knows the bare bones basics, which means basically anything that affected her. Which is interesting because, because of her psychopaths, the law has never, touched her.
Exactly.
She didn't know what enforcers were because she's never seen them before, because she's never had to. So
yeah,
definitely one of the most interesting parts of this world building is the Dominators, which are the police guns, which they're issued.
They don't even make any sense.
They don't make sense.
It's weird even in this world. I can believe the robots. I can believe maybe you can use understand the psychic thing. A thing putting an explosion in you. I don't know. That's what
it forces.
It puts an explosion.
It forces a human to spontaneously combust. Is the thing.
I mean, there's not even fire. That's the thing, right? It's
it implants a giant balloon into you that expands rapidly.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
It doesn't make any sense, and this is kind of you're talking about imaginary science, science fiction. We discussed this in our science fiction class. But imaginary science fiction, it kind of makes it fun. I mean, here, look, it's totally pulpy. It's the most ridiculous thing. It's done almost there's no reason to have this gun that just explodes. Except for, actually, no, I'm wrong. No, it serves a really good thematic purpose. This is the most ridiculous way you can kill somebody. Yeah. And this is exactly the problem. When you have the enforcers who are killing people in the most ridiculous way, not really realizing that killing people in the most ridiculous way is probably causing more issues, right? They're squashing the problem the most heinous way possible.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I didn't quite think about it, but I did say earlier that part of the reason the victim in the first episode, part of the reason her psychopath was so cloudy was because of the death of her abuser was so violent.
Oh, dude just exploded in her face. I mean,
just all over her.
All over her.
Chunks everywhere.
Yeah.
Blood all over her. And yeah, that's going to cause a lot of damage to a person.
And that's
to an already traumatized person.
And it just kind of goes to show, it kind of goes to show how the rest of the society has to how tenuous the society is, of course, right? Because if this were to happen anywhere else, this would screw anyone else up. But it kind of shows that no one is really ready for crime. Even with all these systems, when it if it were to happen somewhere big, it's gonna screw up everyone. In fact, later on in the show, when they get the helmets which prevent them. Which prevent normal criminals from being detected, and sorry, spoilers.
That's fine.
Yeah. And they start doing crimes elsewhere. I think this problem it comes back up, right?
Yeah.
The idea is basically the society just isn't ready. Yeah, no, it causes riots. And people just don't know how to handle this. And it kind of, almost it kind of creates this class issue where man, crime must only happen in back alleys now, right? Mm-hmm. Where we're the only people, basically the only people who were ever getting shot with these Dominators, causing giant gore explosions, are happening in back alleys where the abuser and the abused now either get exploded or are taken to rehab facilities, and it's all just kind of taken place outside of the the normal society's lens, because it would have to, because otherwise, man, if these Dominators are in real world, they would have to get no one would be able to handle this.
Yeah. It the gun even just kind of looks scary when it's not in execution mode. There's the regular
execution mode, by the way.
Yeah, there's three modes for the Dominators, and that is stun, execution, and it was like disintegration or something like that.
How is that different than the execution?
Decomposition mode is specifically for like robots and stuff.
Okay.
For like robots that have gone rogue.
Yeah.
For something, or like that have been programmed to like hurt people. So there was a case later on where actually in the second season this happened. A dude hacked into this government drone, sort of like government foot soldier drone. Like all of these drones had like machine guns equipped to them and whatever. Hacked into those and made it and covered it over with a phone game. And then sent that phone game out into the city. So all of these like high schoolers and stuff were playing this phone game, but they were in actuality taking control of these drones and killing the people who worked on the drones.
I could see this
like
happening in the real world.
Yeah.
Those like the workers and the police officers were all like painted over with, stereotypical video game enemies and everything.
It was actually really funny. Okay, so I was watching, there's another show, Serial Experiments Lane. The show came out in like the 90s. Like before the internet was like really a thing.
Yeah.
They had this exact plot.
Nice.
I don't know how they thought of this back in the 90s, but man, was that prescient. Side note.
It's probably just because like combat simulators have been a thing.
No, I mean, like, they showed it was the 90s, so like they had to show like Doom graphics. It was like it's like cutting edge, and it was like the pixely like flat thing. And
Poor Doom to your.
It was.
To your military simulator.
It worked, but man, it was kind of cute. But yeah, no, it was basically just the same plot where just like kids were playing this tag game. But it got intermingled with like the murder game.
Yeah,
and
the
then
murder game.
The murder game, and then like some stuff happened, and that made people die in real life. So
yeah, the entire thing about season 2 of Psycho-Pass is that the specific person, the antagonist for this one, is part of it is Sybil, like half the antagonist is Sybil. The Sybil system, which is the one that assigns psychopaths and crime coefficients and runs this society. But the other person is a person who, like, he doesn't have a psychopath. Like, not that it's 0, or not that it's white, it doesn't exist.
Interesting.
Because it can't exist. Because he is actually made up of 184 different people. Because he was caught in a plane crash, and using like some newfangled surgical techniques, they took pieces of every single other kid.
Why? Why though?
Because he was still alive.
Well, I know, but like, why? I guess they're just like, we have the bodies. I guess we'll just. I guess.
It's like
sure.
It's
a anime Frankenstein.
Yeah.
It's exactly though.
I wonder how they calculate crime coefficient such that like. I guess he has like the the patch forearm of like Mary over here. And that kind of gives him like.
The thing is that he had like his brain was a conglomerate of 3 different brains.
Oh, okay, that might have. Okay.
So.
What? Okay, yeah, okay. If it's okay, I understand the 3 brains thing. It was like so you have like like John's like arm. I guess that makes it like that's going to be a different crime coefficient now.
No.
Okay, yeah.
3 different brains. So the issue was collective psychopasses. Because he was a collective of technically 184 different people, but just the body parts.
It's just so weird.
That's just such, like, in a world where you have like robots, just put the brain in a robot. Maybe I don't know. I guess they can't, but like.
They actually they couldn't at the time probably, but they can now. Anyway, But yeah, 3 different brains, so it's like, okay, so they have to judge them as a collective, but the thing is that the Sybil system is a collective of brains in a jar. And Sybil, to accurately, judge this guy who is a collective, it would have to judge itself.
And it can't do that, because it's made up of a bunch of criminals.
It's made out of a bunch of, I think they're called criminally
It's not asymptomatic or something.
Asymptomatic, it is.
Is it asymptomatic?
It is asymptomatic. Criminally asymptomatic. Which means that their crime coefficients don't actually reflect their criminal behavior. Yeah.
Like, I mean,
It gets like that's like the whole thing of the first season.
And I
our
think-
main villain is
and I think that kind of goes into world building where it's like, he's just asymptomatic. Don't worry about it, right? I mean, like if at some point you have to go into like, here's the antagonist. He represents all of the outlier. Just you cannot know this, and there's no like, you know, he has this kind of brain nodule here that no, it's just he is asymptomatic. There are asymptomatic people that can just happen. In fact, that almost makes it like scarier. The fact that it's like, I don't know,
there's
like stuff
this
just happens.
big old hole in your system that you can't fix.
Yep.
Is the thing. So how do you keep the entire system from collapsing?
Why did they create the system in the first place?
I mean, you know, I think like all, you know, dystopian futures is like, you know, I mean, because in theory, like the society sort of works, right? Like that crime just doesn't really happen. Like it's always like the, you know, like happy in quotes. Sorry, I'm quoting for those who can't see. Happy in quotes dystopian future where it's like, okay, everyone's like, you know, like most people are fine. Most people know what they're doing. I mean, even now, right? Like, you know, when you trust Google to like, you know what you want, right? You know, this is sort of like trusting the system, and there's a reason to do that. Like, you know, I study machine learning. There's a reason. Like machine learning stuff actually gets good results in certain domains. It's when you start to trust it too much. When you say, okay, man, you know, it's getting. You know, a machine can get 90% efficiency at this job, and a human can't. You know, get, like a machine can get 90% efficiency when it tells you what to do. Or like, you know, let's just say that like a machine learning thing could like find you like the perfect spouse or the perfect, you know, significant other. Like, you know, match you based on like a bunch of different, you know, statistics or whatever. Maybe that would work, right? Because, you know, maybe we're just complex machines. We just have things. You can match those together with other people. But like when you start to trust that too much and you start to integrate it in your own life, in society, it maybe starts to take over. And not only that, but it starts to do a feedback loop into itself, and that's what, you know, it's happening here.
Yeah, it's like the difference between allowing a robot to match you up with your significant other and then requiring that everybody has their significant other given to them by this machine.
It's actually a lot like having, imagine like, you know, in a building, you have stairs and an elevator. Eventually you just get rid of the stairs. Like, you know, maybe, I mean, like...
You're trusting that elevator to not break down.
Yeah, obviously more complex, but, you know, that's like, I mean, and to an extent, right, nowadays, a lot of people take elevators. Reasonable, right? Because it's a simple system and, like, it works. But, man, on those days when the power goes out, boy, are you screwed. But, yeah. Actually, it's really funny. I have an architect friend, and apparently, like, there were, like, authoritarian architects, and like they believed the future was no stairs, only elevators. It's actually weird because it's very similar to this. It's like in the future, it's all machinery, it's all this. Also, they were all Nazis, but they were all like, they were like, look, the perfect man in the perfect building has no stairs. It's like this is it's ridiculous, but interesting, I guess. Also, I don't know like what my friend is learning in architecture that he's coming out with this, but okay.
Like, I feel you on the no stairs thing. I don't like climbing stairs either, but I know that they serve a purpose. Like, I feel you, but I don't agree.
But yeah, like, weirdly, I guess it's kind of part of an authoritarian mantra, right? Like, when you start to make the society that's like, we dictate how, like, the perfect person should be. Oh, we know you. We can use a camera to tell, oh, your psychic profile. I know exactly what you're going to do. We have these perfect aptitude tests. And then you just kind of trust it to a machine.
But like most dystopians, it's not that there's no crime; it's that there's sanctioned crime.
Oh no, exactly. No, exactly. I mean, no. The point is like that. Well, actually, you know, like we said, like, you know, the Dominator, like the idea that like we can have this, you know, ridiculous gory gun, you know, and no one's really getting affected by it. It's because that crime just isn't being seen. It's always in the margins. Basically, you're always just gonna have the marginalized people, right? Because the system, you know, sets people up on these things, and that, like, it works.
Well, what I meant more was the enforcers are the criminals.
Yeah.
I mean, they're killing people.
Yeah. Oh, no, exactly. I know. I mean, like,
the
you know.
inspectors kill people, too.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
No, I mean, like, they're part of an authoritarian state, which is violently oppressing its people. Yeah, no, let us not mince words. They're like, no, they're the Nazi architects, you know, believing in the elevators too much. If that is a metaphor that we can use.
It's a weird one.
I feel like it's valid enough. I don't know.
It probably isn't, but I just, it's
It'll
fine.
be fine. Anyway, Psycho-Pass, interesting show.
Yeah.
Interesting premise. Any final thoughts?
It sure builds that world.
It throws you in the world in
Yeah.
media res, whatever the Latin is for it, but it just
Oh yeah, it does with that like the opening.
yeah, because you don't entirely know what's going on at first. You're thrown right in, and then the second episode, you are introduced to the world, the robots, the housekeeper robot thing, the aptitude tests. Like the second episode is where you get, I feel like, a lot of the world building.
You get like the normal day.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, people use holograms to decide what to wear, and then they can just change their clothes whenever they want. All right. So I think we're going to end that off here. So I'm DJ.
I'm Harper.
I'm John.
And this has been the Sci Fi Lab. Thanks for listening.